I've never done a video like this before. This is the first time that I've listened to these speakers in earnest. They're playing right now. I haven't even listened to them on Axis yet, which means I haven't sat down in front of them. These are the PSB Imagine B50. I'm gonna take you along with me on this initial impressions video. I really wanna go sit down right now because the music is playing, but I don't wanna ruin it because I want it to be like, it's like we're experiencing the speaker the first time together, like buddies. I consider you all my friends. I had to stop the music so I don't ruin it. I don't even know the specs. I don't even know the price of this speaker. So I'm completely blind. I'm coming into this blind, but a lot of times I get super excited about a speaker, so I look it up right away. I find out all the details, but I thought it would be fun to do this together. I think this speaker replaces the PSB Imagine XB, which I was really impressed by. That speaker I think came in around $600. A little bit nervous because these do look very nice. They have pretty rings surrounding the drivers. Looks like an aluminum dome driver. Ouch. All right, these are coming in at $799. Okay, I was wrong. It's not an aluminum dome tweeter. It's a 1-inch titanium dome with ferrofluid magnet. 5 1/4 inch woven carbon fiber cone with rubber surround. It's nice that they tell us it's a rubber surround, not made from jello or pudding. It's got a slot port on the back, black bumpers, no idea what that is, gold plated jumpers, and a satin black or satin white finish. $800. On Axis, they say this thing goes down to 45 Hertz, plus or minus 3 dB, which is very low, all the way up to 23,000 Hertz. Interestingly enough, it actually gives off-axis performance numbers too. Sensitivity in an anechoic, I like at least how these specs are very detailed. So anechoic is basically a little soundproof box. Anechoic chamber, 85 dB sensitivity. Typical listening room says 87 dB sensitivity. Nominal impedance, 8 ohms. 7 inches wide, 12 inches high, 10 inches deep. They weigh 11.3 pounds. When I think of titanium dome tweeters, I think of Klipsch speakers, which can be a little bit forward on the top end and upper mid-range. But sitting over there, I didn't feel that way. So I cleaned up this area to make my house stop. So I've cleaned up this area to make my house look not so dirty, but the house is really dirty. Right over there. Just Like Heaven by Cure was playing while I was getting this video ready. Again, I never sat down directly in front of the speakers. By the way, I have these hooked up to a Weem Ultra on the front end going into the new Emotiva. Very affordable $350 power amplifier. Puts out 50 watts into 8 ohms, I think, and 90 watts into 4, so plenty of power for this. So they sound kind of, okay, they're not booming. And this is a typical PSB sound. So even a small speaker sounds very large. I do feel like there's a lot going on in the lower mid-range. Probably around 300 Hertz. I can't be for sure yet. Lower mids seem very rich right now. However, the vocals are coming in crystal clear, and I'm at the 1 minute 7 second mark where there's a little guitar riff that goes, it looks like at 7 seconds, or 1 minute 7 seconds, 1 minute 9, 1 minute 11 seconds, there's just a single guitar riff. That's coming forward as being a little bit, hello, I'm here. May I borrow a cup of sugar for your ears? That wasn't very funny. Cymbal crash, 1 minute 18 seconds, bit spicy. And when I say spicy, I mean the decay on the, it felt truncated, so shh. So the whole system's coming in around 50, I need some coffee. Look at that. That is just what I needed. Get it? I needed some coffee. 1 minute 26 seconds too. The snare drum's coming in and it's more forward than any of the other frequencies. Talking in your sleep, about the 1 minute 29 second mark, also a little bit more forward. All right, I need to figure out what frequencies seem like they're coming forward. So 600 and 700 hertz seem like they're really coming forward. And that's where his voice is, and some of the electric guitars are as well. Also 2200, 2300 hertz is also a bit forward. It may sound like I'm criticizing the speaker. I'm really not, because this does have some Klipsch RP600 vibe, RP600M Mark II, no, actually Mark I. It does have some of those vibes, but it also feels more balanced than that speaker. It does definitely have some edge. Really around the entire mid-range seems it's a little bit edgy. But I don't know if these speakers are brand new or not. So in a couple of weeks when I do the full review on these, their sonics may change a little bit, even though apparently break-in is just a conspiracy theory, but it's not. Next track. I haven't listened to this track for a while. This song, Every Day Is Exactly the Same by 9 Inch Nails, also seems to be peaky around that 660 hertz region. His voice is forward, coming towards you. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it really feels alive, like he's coming to get you, but it's also cool at the same time. So there's not like a very true to tonality in the mid-range, but it's definitely something different, and it's definitely something that some people are gonna love, some people aren't gonna love. 1 minute 19, 1 minute 20, there's a cymbal that comes in, that was also pretty spicy. 1 minute 20, 1 minute 22. Every day, that part, again, pretty forward. This kind of reminds me a bit of the B&W, whatever the most affordable B&W speaker is. I think it's 606 or something like that. It's the bookshelf speaker. Also reminds me a little bit of the SVS, what is it? Evolution? SVS Ultra Evolution. So we're rocking and rolling pretty loud right now. All right, these are either breaking in as I listen in real time, or I'm getting used to the sound, because now his voice seems like it's settling back in. You just have a really high level of clarity, and I'm starting to warm up to these speakers. 2 minute 10 seconds, there's a bit of sibilance in his voice. All right, I'm starting to get these. But 230, when he hits every day, it really comes forward. I'm gonna turn them down a little bit because I normally don't listen this loud, and on some speakers, when you get them above 85, they really kind of come forward. Man, the percussion at the beginning of this song is quite nice. This is a terrible recording too, so it's not very dynamic at all, but these do seem a bit more dynamic than a lot of speakers. Guitars coming in at that 10-second point, really nice. As soon as he starts singing though, around 21 seconds, you can start to hear the deficiencies of the recording, not necessarily the speaker. And generally, the better a system you have, the better speakers you have, the more you're gonna hear the limitations of this recording. I haven't played Sunday Bloody Sunday on anything and been like, oh my goodness, this is spectacular. 14 seconds into this track, he comes in with the vocals, and then he goes really high up in the register, and sometimes you can hear a lot of resonance. I'm not hearing that with this speaker. That was nice. That's nice. All right, very nice. 24 seconds, the vocals come in, and when he goes, folks, some speakers will be like, ugh, not so. I'm kind of digging these in the mid-range, even though that's what I like, I guess. This speaker is a little bit lively in the mid-range, and that's not a bad thing, because I'm not hearing any fatigue, which is really interesting. I actually think these are bumped at 600 hertz, And fatigue for me is really around 1500 hertz up to 2000 hertz. So you are getting kind of a forward mid-range, but you're getting it at a frequency that's not fatiguing. Interesting. We're figuring things out real time together. Snare drum hits are also pretty forward. I wanna be with you. That seemed a little bit wonky. So 55 seconds, the vocal is everything's gonna be right, yeah. Coming forward a little bit too. But not in a bad way. This is kind of like a different personality of a speaker. Jonathan Davis is giving basically an introduction to the song because he is singing with Robert Smith and The Cure. In the beginning, that whole record's recorded really well, but you can hear into the room at that point, which is really impressive. And interestingly enough, his voice didn't seem to be coming forward, but he's down in the register. Jonathan Davis has a tendency to start low and then go high in the register and then come back. So he's probably around 500 hertz with right there, and then he'll go all the way up to about 2000 hertz. Actually, let's figure out exactly where his voice is at.
My whole entire life, my wildest dream soundtrack of my life.
So right at 550 hertz. This sounds really good. So we got acoustic guitars going on right at 1200 hertz. He's low in the register right now, so 500, 600 hertz. And it goes all the way up to 1300 hertz. After the 1 minute mark, he's going all the way up. So he's going from 500 hertz all the way up to 1600 hertz. And about 128, he goes back down to 600 hertz. So this track, even if you don't like Korn, this track is an excellent way to see the handoff or how the mid-range is doing from the lower end of the mid-range all the way up to the upper part of the mid-range, all with one person. And some speakers, they have a really terrible handoff between lower mids and upper mids. Because with the crossover point at 2200 hertz, as soon as you get to that crossover point, if the drivers don't overlap really well, there's almost always a huge peak or a huge trough at the crossover point. But these sound very cohesive across the mid-range. This is probably the best track that I've heard with these speakers right now, though. Also, when Robert Smith is coming in, that sounds really good. Robert Smith is coming in and there's a little bit of an interlude or something like that. And at 3 minutes, he comes back in. I'm hearing a little bit of sibilance on these, which is happening around, I think, 6,000 hertz. However, it's pretty brief and not really that distracting. 325, come back. Can't you see? At that, can't you see? That's a bit peaked, coming a little bit forward. You're probably getting sick of this. So 329, 330, the line is, and I know I was wrong. And that is, the tonality of that part is a little bit cooler. It's pretty neutral, and then the 329 point is coming a little bit forward. And as it comes forward, it cools down a little bit. I feel like the mid-range is pretty flat, true to life, and then when it comes to a certain point, it cools down a bit. 352, Jonathan Davis comes back in, and his voice is kind of like this. Very good, though. Very, very good. About 352. You guys can play at home, too. Oh, it's really good. Really good. Wow. That is really spectacular. So post 4 minutes, Jonathan Davis is coming in low, and then he goes up really high. And it's flawless. I gotta listen to this again. There's a lot going on at this part because he's coming in low and then he whispers. And if you have a bunch of wonkiness going on, there's gonna be a lot of sibilance when someone is whispering. Attention. So he's saying attention in a whisper. Wow. There's another line, he goes, I want something. Now, if you're hearing it, the microphone's pointing towards me, and it's a directional microphone. So whatever you're hearing is going to sound like garbage. But it will at least give you an idea of what part of the song I'm listening to. One of the best tests to see if I'm really digging a speaker is if I listen to the whole track. If I'm just skipping through, it's okay. However, they sucked me in with Make Me Bad, MTV Unplugged. So there's basically a build-up on Harvester of Sorrow all the way up to the 1 minute and 18 second mark, where the guitar riff comes in, dee 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 dee, dun, dun, dun. And again, for me, when a song comes on and I want to turn it up, that's always a very good sign that a speaker's doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing, PSB B50s. Oh yeah, the guitar riff, that weight of it is really yummy. Vocals are coming in a little bit hot at 132, but man, the guitar riff, the primal guitar riff is quite good. I'm gonna listen to the beginning of this song again. The first 25 seconds are, again, this is kind of an intro within an intro. There's another intro that starts at 25 seconds that really takes you all the way through to past 1 minute. And it transitions at 25 seconds with another guitar that comes in. So, dun, 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 dun. So yeah, really, very good. You're probably getting sick of me just saying this is really good, but it's really good. I don't know what to tell you. There's also this kind of growl going on in the background that's layered in there, which is lost on some speakers, but I can definitely hear it here. This is like an intro within an intro within an intro, because there's a big drum fill that comes in probably around 45 seconds. You can tell a lot about a speaker in a system with this song. Cymbals also around 127, 128, coming in almost like a double. Really solid, really good. Turn the volume down a little bit. So SPL is about 68 dB right now. They sound spectacular on Harvester of Sorrow. It takes a little bit of that bite in the upper mid-range out. Even above 80 though, that bite is, well, kind of fun. One more track, and then I'll give you a summary. Over the Hills and Far Away, Led Zeppelin. This song, not super dynamic. So if you have a not super dynamic speaker, it sounds like it's coming from an old television. It's a great song, but I use this track to test how dynamic a speaker is. About 10 seconds in, the acoustic guitar comes in. It's very weighty, very nice. 25 seconds, another guitar comes in, playing in harmony, and it's higher, and it goes, ring. There's some air in it too, which I like. 52 seconds, Robert Plant comes in, hey lady. Real nice. Clean, clear, very articulated. After the intro, when his voice comes in, what is that? About 129, he seemed like he stepped back a little bit in the stage. So the intro, he seemed forward, and then all of a sudden, when everything started happening with the song, he snuck back a little bit. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Overall, I think what's going on with these speakers is there is a bump somewhere in the 2000 hertz area. Sorry, the sun's coming in. Pretty good continuity with the mid-range. Very dynamic speaker, which I was a little bit surprised. I guess I'm not surprised, because historically PSB has always been pretty dynamic. These are a very different sound though than the PSB Imagine XBs. That was a warm speaker. That kind of reminded me a bit of an ELAC debut. This does not remind me of an ELAC debut. If anything, this reminds me of a very well-behaved Klipsch speaker, the B&W 606, I think, S whatever generation it is, and a little bit of the new SVS Ultra Evolution. But if you put a gun to my head, I would choose these probably over those. I was just talking to somebody on the phone and we were talking about this speaker. The B&W speakers played some tracks really well, but most tracks not really well. These speakers are playing most tracks really well and a few not so well. Overall, I'm pretty impressed. I don't love the price. That's $800, but they do look good. They have some cool beauty rings around it. And I do think these are built better than the Imagine XBs, which I think they're replacing, but they should. They're $200 more. The next video I'll do with these is going to be a direct comparison to other speakers around the same price point. Sounded great. Now, I also need to switch out amps. But if you want to learn more about the A2L Plus from Emotiva, which comes in at $350, very good deal. And I think is going to kind of disrupt the industry from, it's going to be difficult to justify some of the higher prices from a lot of these import amps from China because they're getting more expensive. And then you have Emotiva coming out with a full width component at $350. Not too shabby. If you want to watch that video, I will link it right up here. I go into a lot more detail about that amp. You should check it out. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen, maybe through your new Cheap Audio Man coffee mug, and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.